Hello everyone, this is James Shore with another test-driven JavaScript video. I'm recording this on September 27th, 2012, picking up right where we left off in the last episode. And what we're doing is getting Testacular running, the unfortunately named client-side testing framework. So we're going to get this going and then, well, do some client-side testing. So we've got it installed. So now what we need to do is actually get it to the point where we can run some tests. So let's go ahead and do that. The easiest way to get started is to run the init command. So we'll do that. And it's going to ask us which testing framework we want to use. Our choices are Jasmine, Mocha, or nothing. Now it does support, Testacular is a test runner. It's not actually a testing framework. So you could write your own adapter for Testacular to use any testing framework, but I don't want to do that. And so our choices are Jasmine or Mocha. And I think Mocha is a better choice for us. And the reason is that Jasmine is very much a BDD style framework. And I'm not a big fan of the BDD style. Now, there's not a whole lot of difference in practice between a BDD framework and a TDD framework. The only real difference is the wording that is used. But Mocha is more flexible. It gives you more options. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. The reason I prefer the TDD approach over the BDD approach, as I said in one of our early episodes, is that I find the BDD approach just incredibly verbose, and I would like to be a little bit more concise. The reason they're so verbose is because the BDD style comes from a background of really caring about language, and I do care about readability, but the BDD movement has sort of moved in the direction of creating specifications, creating documentation from their tests. And I don't think that has a whole lot of value, at least not for the kinds of tests we're doing right now. So I chose Mocha. Now you can set up Testacular so that it will automatically run a browser for you when it starts. And in theory, that's a good idea. But I've played with Testacular a little bit, and actually, occasionally Testacular does crash. And when it crashes, your browsers are sort of left hanging, and then when you run it again, it tries to rerun another browser when you've already got it open, and it gets messy. So I'd rather just set up the browsers manually rather than capturing them automatically. However, we are going to want to make sure that we want to check that we are testing against all supported browsers when in our check. And if that doesn't make sense, don't worry, we'll get to that later. Which files do we want to test? We'll get back to that. Let's just go ahead and leave that in for now. Nothing we want to exclude right now. And do we want Testacular to watch all our files? Actually, no. I prefer to run them from the command line manually. It is a really handy feature, but if you're going to do that kind of watch, I prefer it to run all of our tests, not just the Testacular tests. So that's something we might put into the future, but I don't want to have Testacular do it. So there it goes. It's created our testacular.conf.js. So that's right here. Let's move the Testacular configuration file at some point because we don't want to have. The only things we want to have at our top level are the stuff that people really need to know about. So I don't want it to get all crufted up with configuration files. We'll put it in the build folder or something like that at some point in the future. Let's go ahead and look in here and see what we got. The init creates a bad base path. Base path is relative to the configuration file. So our base path right now is just here. The files, these are the files that are actually going to be sent to the browser. So the way Testacular works is you run a browser and it will send your tests to that browser and then run them. So this is the files that we're going to actually send to the browser. Let's go ahead, make a client directory, and say that the files we're going to send, in addition to Mocha, are going to be I guess we'll want the same pattern as before. So we'll say that's going to be source client star underscore test.js, which means we probably need to exclude that from our tests here in our Jake file. So let's go ahead and do that. So we've got that set up. We need to unify our test file configuration, location configuration. It's currently split between Jake file and Testacular configuration. So we'll need to fix that somehow. Okay. And I don't think there's anything we need to exclude right now. We'll just include these. Yeah, I think everything else looks good. So let's go ahead and start it up. So it doesn't see any files. That's all right. It started the web server. So now what we do is we take our browser. Let's make a new browser that's just for Testacular, and we point it at that URL. So let's do that. And there we go. There's our Testacular runner. So now this browser is captured. That means that this browser will be used for all of our tests against for running all of our client-side tests. And the cool thing about Testacular, the reason I love this, is we can have as many of these browsers running as we want. And we can have them running anywhere on the network we want. So that's very powerful. Let's write ourselves a little test. Now we told it to use Mocha. So we'll write ourselves a Mocha test. That does mean, well, let's see. That means we need to, open a new command window here. We'll need to install Mocha. So there we go. And Mocha doesn't come with any assertion frameworks, or if it does, it gives you a choice of assertion frameworks. So let's install Chai as our assertion framework. So there we go. All right, let's make a test. Okay. By default, the way Mocha works is it does use a BDD interface. So we describe something and then pass in a function and then say it should run. It should something. And here, let's just go ahead and dump out hello. The dump function is provided by Testacular and will actually, although the code's running in the browser, when you run dump, it will actually send it back over to through the command line to your output. There we go. It's running our tests. Awesome. Okay, let's get an assertion in there. We don't have an assertion framework set up, but I did install Chai, so let's go ahead and get that. Chai is a cool little assertion framework. It provides a whole bunch of different styles of assertions. And as I've mentioned before, I prefer the TDD assert style. So we'll go ahead and do that. We're going to need to get to tell Testacular to send Chai over to the browser. So let's do that. And that's going to be in node modules / where is it? I think it's in Chai. Yeah, Chai / chai.js. JS. Let's remember that comma. And now we should be able to say our assertion library is equal to chai.assert. I think that will work. Let's find out. No, it's not defined. We might have to restart Testacular. So there we go. Let's try running it again. There. Okay. So now we should be able to say assert foo is equal to bar, and this is our, so this is the actual value, the expected value, and then an optional message. And let's just leave that message out for now. So we're going to say that these are equal, and let's try running that. Expected foo to equal bar. Perfect. It's it's so pedestrian. You know, it looks just like all the server-side tests that we've been running, but I really want to emphasize this is running in Firefox. This is actually really running in the browser. But the reason I love Testacular and also JS Test Driver is because they make it seem just like the rest of your server-side tests. It really makes this a smooth process. So let's go ahead and assert that these two things are equal, run it, and it's working. Great. Fantastic. Now, let's ramp it up a little bit. We've got our Firefox browser, but let's also bring in Safari. Great. Now we're running against two browsers simultaneously, but that's not good enough. We need to support Chrome too. Awesome. Okay. Now we're running against three browsers, but that's not good enough. We've got Firefox, Safari, Chrome. Those are the big three on the desktop. What about mobile platforms? Let's bring in the iOS simulator. Here we are. Okay. By the way, to learn how to install the iOS simulator, Google it. It changes quite a bit, and I think you have to have a Mac. But here we have the iOS simulator. Let's go ahead and put in our local host. There we go. Now we've got iOS running. Let's make sure our code works on iOS. All right, but that's not good enough. We need to support IE9. Let's run a VM. Okay, we've got our VM coming up. Here's IE9. And that will need, now this localhost won't work here because that's not actually, localhost is the VM. The actual address is jamesshore.local, which is my Mac. So let's bring that up. Okay, now we've got IE9. Let's see if that works. Awesome. But that's not good enough. We need IE8 support as well. So let's pull that in. Another VM. Here we are. We'll run IE. And we'll do the same thing, jamesshore.local. There we are. And we'll run our tests again. Done. It doesn't work on IE8. That's why we do multi-browser testing, because, well, IE8 sucks. So, thanks for watching, everybody. We will pick up with this next time. We're going to be doing all these browsers, all this cross-browser testing for everything we do on the client from now on. So, I'm looking forward to that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.